Hey there, bookworms. Welcome to Pouring Over Books, a podcast where we dive into the books we love and maybe a few we didn't. I'm your host, LaShawn, and every week I'll be deep diving into what I'm reading, recommendations, and talking about all the things that we love about books. So grab your favorite coffee or tea, find a cozy spot, and let's get ready to pour over some great books together. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Pouring Over Books podcast. My name is LaShawn, and I am your host. And friends, I am recovering from the Cowboy Carter tour. I am so happy that February me thought ahead and got tickets because FOMO would have been real. But it was excellent. And if I had unlimited funds, I would go back for the last two shows. I would have gone back for the last two shows because it was an experience, and it was worth every single penny and any more pennies that I would have had to spare. Anyway, I've been in sort of a book slump after the last book I read. It did not live up to expectations, and then the one before that didn't live up to expectations either. So I was like slumpy. I started maybe 6 books, and none of them, I couldn't finish any of them because I was just like, oh, this is not what I want to read. But due to a combo with my friend Aronica, I think Saturday morning, I got out of it with a book that I will tell you about later. Anywho, let's move on to today's topic. I know that I talk a lot about newer books on here, latest releases, etc. But a listener asked me if I ever read Backlist books. And even though the answer is rarely, because I've either read it or I'm just not interested, occasionally I do discover a new author, like S.A. Cosby, for instance, and I've decided to dive into his entire backlist. So those would be backlist books that I will read. Or I discover a new series, like I really want to read The Way of the King series by Brandon Sanderson. There are other books that are backlists that I just haven't gotten to yet. Like I haven't finished James Baldwin's entire catalog. I haven't finished Toni Morrison's entire catalog. There are a few books there's a book by Alice Walker that I want to finish. And there are lots of other books that I just haven't gotten to. And I don't remember that until I see it. And I will get to them one day. But, it's not a priority, you may say, because there are so many books out there. And but I do read backlist books occasionally, like they will pop up on my radar and I'll read them. That's how I read Game of Thrones series before they put it on HBO. And I'm still mad about how they ended that. Now he has not written that last book, but we will let that go. Anyway, I went through my own bookshelves and I found 10 backlist books that I want to add to your TBR because these are all books that were written before, let me see. I think they were all written before 2020. No, not all of them, but they were all written before the last 2 years. So yeah, these are all backlist books though, that I think should be on your TBR, that I think everyone should read. So anyway, let's get started. The first book is Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. This is classic Toni Morrison and my personal favorite. The premise. Milkman Dead was born shortly after a neighborhood eccentric hurled himself off of a rooftop in a vain attempt at flight. For the rest of his life, he too will be trying to fly. As Morrison follows Milkman from his Rust Belt city to the place of his family origins, she introduces an entire cast of strivers, seers, liars, assassins, and the inhabitants of a fully realized Black world. I usually read this one like every 2 to 3 years, and it is time to read it again. I saw one of my book friends reading it this year, and I was like, yes, I have got to add that to my TBR for this year. But I also own the audio version that Toni Morrison reads herself. So I think I'll save this one for one of my walking books this year. But every library is going to have this book. And let me go back and say, I deliberately picked books that your library should have. Your library should have no problem getting these books for you because they're backlists. And I know that's important for a lot of people because, books are expensive these days. But yes, and sometimes the problem with Libby in the library is the whole time is horrid. But anyway, yes. So I think this is going to be one of my walking books of this year, like I said, and I cannot wait to get back to it. The second book I want to talk about is my absolute personal favorite is Linden Hills by Gloria Naylor. This is hands down my favorite book of all time. I will never not recommend this book that was published in 1985. I read it about 10 years later, maybe in my late teens, early 20s, when I found a copy at the thrift store. I still own that copy. Linden Hills begins when Willie and Lester, better known as Shit, slapped five on Wayne Avenue and began their journey down Linden Hills. The premise. For its wealthy African American residents, the exclusive neighborhood of Linden Hills is a symbol of making it. The ultimate achievement, a home on the prestigious Tupelo Drive. Making your way downhill to Tupelo is irrefutable proof of your worth. But the further down the hill you go, the emptier you become. Using the descent of Dante's Inferno as a model, this bold, haunting novel follows two young men as they attempt to work amid the circles of the well-off community. Exploring a microcosm of race and social class, author Gloria Naylor reveals the true cost of success for the lost souls of Linden Hills, an existence trapped in a nightmare of their own making. This book is just so good. There are so many lessons in there. It's just enough stuff in it that just makes you go like, say, what? It's excellent. It really is excellent. And it had to be good to make such an impression on me, in my early 20s. So just go for it, friends. The third book on my list is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. It's actually a series. The Discovery of Witches series starts with the book A Discovery of Witches. The first three books of the series are a trilogy, and it is the story of Matthew and Diana, a witch and a vampire, destined to be together and change the world. They made this into a series it's on Netflix right now, but I think it was originally on Prime. I don't know. But you know how I feel about my favorite books being made into a series. They did, I will say, a wonderful job casting Matthew, but literally everything else about this series made me cringe, and yet I still watched it because I had such high expectations, but everybody else was miscast, you might say. The person who they had as Diana, she's a great actress, but not for this part, not for this role. And even who they had as Matthew's mother, oh my God, it was just not right. That's all I have to say. But this is a perfect series for those who want a bit of fantasy with a lot of historical references and lore and romance. It's not overtly sexual like many of the romantasy books today, but it was just enough. I don't even think you can consider this romantasy, just maybe fantasy, or either just a book about some witches and vampires and just call it that. The next book on my list is Reckless by Elsie Silver. Reckless is the fourth book in Elsie Silver's Chestnut Spring series. Theo, a rowdy bull rider, and Winter, an uptight doctor, have a one-night stand. She gets pregnant. She can't get a hold of him, but a year later he returns, finds out he has a kid, and steps right up for the baby and Winter. And Winter finds herself falling for Theo despite herself. Y'all, I despise accidental pregnancy tropes. I despise accidental pregnancy tropes. Like, I will stop reading a book if I discover it usually. In fact, one of my favorite authors recently wrote one and I refuse to read it, even though I know it's probably good because she's a great writer. I can't do it. I hate it with everything in my being, which lets you know that this book was exceptionally good. In fact, it is my absolute favorite book of the series, and it's saying something because the series itself is excellent. The next book on my list is Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. I think it was published in like 1999. Speaking to us with the wisdom of age and in a voice at once haunting and immediately, Nida Sayuri tells us the story of her life as a geisha. It begins in a poor fishing village in Nine when, as a 9-year-old girl with unusual blue-gray eyes, she is taken from her home and sold into slavery to a renowned geisha house. Or is it geisha? We witness her transformation as she learns the rigorous arts of the geisha. Dance and music, wearing a kimono, elaborate makeup and hair, pouring sake to reveal just a touch of an inner wrist, competing with jealous rivals. In Memoirs of a Geisha, we enter a world where appearances are paramount, where a girl's virginity is auctioned to the highest bidder, where women are trained to beguile the most powerful men and where love is scorned as an illusion. It is a unique and triumphant work of fiction, at once romantic, erotic, sensual, and completely unforgettable. This book is a classic, and of course, Netflix made it into a movie, but I can't tell you anything about it. The next book on my list is Eat the Frog by Brian Tracy. The saying goes, if the first thing you do this morning is eat a live frog, then you're done with the toughest thing for the day. Eating that frog means tackling your most challenging task, and it's also the one that can have the greatest positive impact on your life. Productivity and time management coach Brian Tracy shows you how to organize each day so that you can zero in on these critical tasks and accomplish them efficiently and effectively. I am going to just tell you, this book came out, let me see, in the peak productivity and getting shit done is cool era. And although many have moved away with it, I'm going to go ahead and let you know from experience that if you are a procrastinator like me, just go ahead and pick up this book. Like I said, am a procrastinator. I will do everything but what I'm supposed to be doing until the last possible minute when I am rushing to do something. Unfortunately, after years of this struggle, I do my best work at the last minute because I am an overachiever, type A, Enneagram 3 who has decision making issues. But this book helped me in my 30s to learn to eat the frog. That is, I do the task I want to put off first, that I want to put off for last. I do that task first. Today, for instance, I love this podcast, but something about researching it and then recording it always wants me to put it off until the last possible minute. But it is my frog of today, and I am doing it. Anyway, I recommend that book. I recommend that book if you too are a procrastinator, or if you just want to be able to, or it helps you with organizing your day, deciding what's most important and what will move the needle for you. So I'm still going to recommend it. The seventh book that I'm going to recommend is the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs. Mercy Thompson is a shapeshifter, and while she was raised by werewolves, she can never be one of them, especially after the pack ran her off for having a forbidden love affair. So she's turned her talent for fixing cars into a business and now runs a one-woman mechanic shop in the Tri-Cities area of Washington State. But Mercy's two worlds are colliding. A half-starved teenage boy arrives at her shop looking for work, only to reveal that he's a newly changed werewolf, on the run and desperately trying to control his animal instincts. Mercy asks her neighbor, Adam Houghton, the alpha of the local werewolf pack, for assistance. But Mercy's act of kindness has unexpected consequences that leave her no choice but to seek help from those she once considered family, the werewolves who abandoned her. There are, as of now, 14 books in this series and 6 in the spinoff. Have I read them all? Of course I have. I love this series because it's not just about the love between our two main characters. There are witches and fae and vampires and shapeshifters and werewolves and more, and it's all set in a modern world, in a modern setting. We have cell phones. It's just delicious. And I am waiting for bated breath for the next installment. This is a series I like to suggest to people who want a little bit of fantasy, but they don't want the romantic part so much in their book. Like, they don't mind the romance, but they don't want the romance to take over the book. That is this series. I swear the romance is like a side plot. I mean, it's an integral part of the books because it is the reason why some things happen, but the stories that go along with that and what comes of that is really what makes the book. It is an excellent series. Excellent. And like I said, I read all 14 and all 6 of spinoffs. And I'm waiting with bated breath for the next one because they left us in a cliffhanger and I need to know what happens. Anyway, the 8th book that I want to recommend is The Perfect Find by Tia Williams. Yes, this is the Tia Williams. Yes, this is a Tia Williams, A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. Tia Williams, 7 Days in June, Tia Williams. And that's what she is currently most famous for. But I discovered Tia Williams with this book, with The Perfect Find. Jenna Jones, former It Girl fashion editor, is 40, broke, and desperate for a second chance. When she's dumped by her longtime fiancé and fired from Darling magazine, she begs for a job from her arch nemesis, the beyond bitchy Darcy Vale, who agrees to hire her, But Jenna soon realizes she's in over her head. What's worse is that the 22-year-old videographer assigned to shoot her web series is driving her crazy. Eric Combs is way off limit, but almost too delicious to resist. Does Jenna have room in her life for her new career, a new life, and a new man? Or will her not so secret infatuation bring everything crashing down around her? It is so good. I mean, it is a May December romance, a reverse age gap romance where the female is the older one. I love those, by the way. I just read one of those like last week or the week before last. That was excellent. But anyway, it is so good. And no, I have not and will not watch the Netflix version of this. The ninth book on my list is You Made a Fool Out of Death with Your Beauty by Akaweki Emezi. Faye wants to learn how to live again. It's been 5 years since the accident that killed the love of her life, and she's almost a new person now. An artist with her own studio and sharing a brownstone apartment with her ride or die best friend Joy, who insists it's time for Faye to ease back into the dating scene. Faye isn't ready for anything serious, but a steamy encounter at a rooftop party cascades into a whirlwind summer she could have never imagined. A luxury trip to a tropical island, decadent meals in the glorious home of celebrity chef and a major curator who wants to launch her art career. She's even started dating the perfect guy, but their relationship might be sabotaged before it has a chance to over but their new relationship might be sabotaged before it has a chance by the overwhelming desire Faye feels every time she locks eyes with the one person in the house that is most definitely off limits, his father. This book is messy boots. I mean, messy from page one. Messy, but it is so good, I couldn't put it down. And in fact, I might have to reread this one soon because it was good. It was good. It was good. All right. And the last book on my list is a series, the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Guys, Friday night, while I was waiting for the Beyonce concert to start, I opened IG and Sarah J. Maas stated in a post that she is finished the draft to Akatar 6. And the book internet, the fantasy, the romantasy book internet lost its everlasting mind trying to decode and see what it meant and it was a mess and it was lovely and it was great. We have been waiting 4 years and counting for this book. So, in light of that, I want to push into your hands her first series. Not even the Akatar series that this is the sixth book of, but I want to push into your hand her first series, the Throne of Glass series. Why, you ask? Because our Sarah is a genius, and all of her books, all of them, each one of her 3 series is interconnected. And that's all I'm going to say before I spoil it for those who have not read it. You don't have to read this series first, but I strongly suggest that you do. It begins in a land without magic when an assassin is summoned to a castle. She has no love for the vicious king who rules from his glass throne, but she has not come to kill him. She has come to win her freedom. If she defeats 23 murderers, thieves, and warriors in a competition, she will be released from prison to serve as the king's champion. Her name is Selena Sardathian. The crown prince will provoke her, the captain of the guard will protect her, and a princess from a faraway country will befriend her. But something rotten dwells in the castle, and it's there to kill. When her competitors start dying mysteriously one by one, Selena's fight for freedom becomes a fight for survival and a desperate quest to root out the evil before it destroys her world. Yes, this series is long and involved and time-consuming, and more time-consuming than if you just start with Akatar. But frankly, even if you start with Akatar, you will still have to read the Crescent City series, and then you're going to have to come back to this one. So I'm saving you time, really, and confusion by telling you to start here. A lot of people, including people who I've recommended this to, it's like half and half. There are either some people who are like obsessed, who get it immediately and are like, oh my God, this is so good. And then there are people who are bored until like book 3 or 4. The real romance in this series doesn't start until book 4. Our love interest is introduced earlier in another book, but it doesn't even really realize that this is going to be a romance until book 4. And even then, things don't get sexy until book 5. There are 7 books in this series. Yes, 7. 8 if you count the novella. So this could be a year-long project, really, because frankly, the next Ekatar book probably won't even appear until late next year or early 2027. Just saying. I hope I'm wrong, but who knows? I just know it's finally coming and I am satisfied. Anyway, despite my love for Akatar, and I love that series, especially book 2, I guess if you know, you know, I will always, always recommend the Throne of Glass series because it is the better written series. This is the only one that might be hard to get at your local library because it is still so popular, even though the first book was published way back in 2012. And I think, I don't even know, when was the last book published? The last book was published in 2016. No, it had to be later than 2016. Oh, 2018. Last book was 2018. So even though it gained in popularity right around the time Book Talk came out. So, TikTok propelled it. Whew, okay. That is my pitch for that. Anyway, those are my 10 recommendations for backlist books and series that I think you should read, that you should add to your TBR. I hope I have talked about something that interests you. Now it's time to talk about what I've been reading, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I just finished the last book in the Ruinous Love series, Scythe and Sparrow. I read the first book and couldn't stop reading it, even though it wasn't my usual kind of book. I mean, it's the love story between 2 serial killers. Do with that as you may. But I was shocked that I actually liked it despite all of the trigger warnings. Oh, please read the trigger warnings and then don't judge me when you do. But I liked it. I gave it a 3.5, I think. I was like, oh, okay, all right. I wouldn't read this on a regular, but I get it. I get it. And then the second book just did not capture me like I wanted it to. So I literally stopped reading around 84% because I looked. But then I was talking to my friend Veronica, and she mentioned that she was listening to the first book, and I realized I wanted to know how the series ended. My library had both books available on Libby, so I checked them out and finished out the series. I will give the second book a 3 because it was harder for some reason. I wanted to love their story, but I really, I couldn't. I don't know why I don't know why I felt that way about it. It just felt like it dragged, and like they could have worked out their mess sooner. And some of the side stories was just like what. Plus, the whole time, just like in the first book, I was slightly distracted by the third brother and the lady and the other female main character. But I give this conclusion of the series a solid 4. The first book was just so shocking and a bit much for me. But this, like I said, the second book was not as good. But this book, I'd been waiting for these 2 main characters the entire 3 books. And I was not disappointed. It was somehow sweeter and sadder at the same time. Yes, there was still murder and mayhem. And you're like, really? But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was the perfect, because I was in a reading slump, like I said. And since I was in a reading slump, I needed something to shock me out of it, and this did it. And it was perfect for the time that I needed to read it. I took a break from the Guild series that I was reading. I am supposed to be on book 4, but I felt like I needed a little break, and I decided to start reading. I'm currently reading Big Fan by Alexandria Romanoff. Maya was a rising star in the political world until her ex-husband's high-profile sex scandal nearly derailed her career. Landing a gubernatorial candidate is the fresh start she desperately needs, a chance to focus on meaningful work and leave the drama behind. But then an email from her past sends her world spiraling. Charlie, former lead singer of Mischief, the boy band that fueled her teenage obsession, is staging a solo comeback and wants Maya's help to make it happen. Turns out she likes the grown-up Charlie and his genuine engagement with the world. Maya's not about to ditch her political ambitions for her teenage crush, but if she can leverage Charlie and draw attention to the policy she cares about, shouldn't she give it a try? This is a very thin book. It only has 176 pages. I started it yesterday at bedtime, and I'll probably keep reading it at bedtime until it's done, which at 176 pages shouldn't be long. I just got to the part where she meets Charlie for the first time, and so we've gotten our background information. She's met her, she's been hired by her candidate, and it's getting interesting. I'm intrigued. Next book that I'm going to read, I'm not quite sure. I have two books I'm thinking about starting. Let's talk about them. The first one I'm thinking about starting is In the Vein of Drowning by Kaylee Cassidy. It comes out today, and it is a new romantasy that I keep seeing pop up everywhere. And so curiosity basically got the best of me. The premise: Imogene Nail is in hiding from a cruel kingdom that believes sirens are monstrous, bloody, hungry creatures. Hiding from the king and his captain who viciously hunt her kind, hiding from her own alluring abilities by keeping herself from the sea. Imogene's bloodlust is dulled, and her black wings remain concealed beneath her skin. But when a neighboring king comes to visit, Imogen can no longer hide. He knows precisely what she is, and he believes she can save their kingdoms from an even greater monster. But Imogene's powers threatens violently to reveal itself, and the two form a blood bond that protects them both. They flee together, traversing waters teeming with the undead. As the lines between the duty to their people and the desire for each other begins to blur, Imogen worries her ancestral powers may not be enough to kill what hunts her, and the only way to defeat a monster might be to become a monster herself. I'm curious. So I'll probably start this one. But the other book that is on my list is The Girls Who Grew Big by Layla Motley. This one was on my summer reading list, which is why I'm like, I just need to read this. Adela Woods is 16-year-old and pregnant. Her parents banished her from her comfortable upbringing in Indiana to her grandmother's home in the small town of Padua Beach, Florida. When she arrives, Adela meets Emery, who brings her newborn to high school, determined to graduate despite the odds. Simone, a mother of 4-year-old twins who weighs her options when she finds herself pregnant again, and the rest of the girls, a group of outcast young moms who raise their growing brood in the back of Simone's red truck. The town thinks the girls have lost their way, but really they are finding it, looking for love, making and breaking friendships, and navigating the miracle of motherhood and the paradox of girlhood. I listened to an interview with her on NPR. I think it was a podcast while I was walking last week, and it reminded me that it was time to pick this book up. I don't know if I'm going to read it, exactly next after I finish this short little romance, but I will probably read it or be in the middle of it by the time we speak again. So we shall see. Okay, friends, that is all for today. That's all I have this week. If you love this episode, do me a favor and make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss the next one. It's free. It helps the show. It helps us find bookish friends, and it helps keep your TBR interesting. As always, you can follow me personally on IG and TikTok at LaShawn Wilkes, and on my Substack at Letters to LaShawn. Okay, friends, thanks for listening. Talk to you next week. Bye.